please, I'm just going to be mainly going over some questions with you about chapters 4 through 6. That maybe we can discuss, and if you have some questions about anything that you're not sure of, you can ask. You need to be making sure you're adding to your textual evidence and theme chart so that you can use them either later this week or next week. So, I need to see everybody with a novel out. Get one. And your learning target is that I can analyze how particular lines of dialogue or incidents in a story or drama propel the action, reveal aspects of the character, or provoke a decision. So you're going to be looking at things, some of these, or I'm going to be talking to you about some things some of these characters say, which is our dialogue, incidents, things that happen that either, propel what's going to happen next, or they're going to tell us something about our characters, or it's going to cause characters to make decisions. If you read these chapters, you should realize there are definitely some incidents that propel the action and cause certain characters to have to make decisions that they probably were not planning on making in their young lives. So, when it comes to the Socias, if you read, you know that the Socias came and jumped on Pony and Johnny. And where were they at the time when they got jumped? Where were they, Austin?
Baker's lot.
Yes. And why, probably, did the Socias decide to jump them that night?
Probably because the guys took their girlfriend.
Yes, because their girlfriends were, kind of hanging out with them. And of course, who remembers how many Socias there were compared to just Tony and Johnny by themselves? Okay? So, again, they are in a larger number attacking 2 people, and there are 5 of them. And they know Johnny well enough to know he's going to already be scared, so how well could he fight? They're thinking, okay, when they jump on them. On page 55, they just kind of start off with kind of mouthing, because Johnny and Ponyboy are like, you're not even in your territory, why are you here? And at one point, about 3/4 of the way down the page, Bob says to Ponyboy and to Johnny, really, you know what a greaser is? Bob asked. White trash with long hair. And Ponyboy says, I felt the blood draining from my face. I've been cussed out and sworn at, but nothing ever hit me like that did. Johnny made a kind of gasp and his eyes were smoldering. So Johnny is kind of getting angry along with his nervousness. But why do you think the insult white trash for some reason hit Ponyboy so hard right then? Why would that bother him when he's been cussed out? He's had all kinds of things said to him, but why in the world would it affect him the way it did right here at this moment, do you think?
Because he still feels like he's more than a greaser.
Okay.
Yes,
remember, he is so different from the other greasers, and he kind of thinks of himself that way, and it's almost like these Socias make him face reality of, you're still a greaser, and this is how we look at y'all, you're white trash. Okay? Could someone argue Bob's murder as right or wrong? Luke, could someone argue that his murder could be right and then someone else debate that and say, no, it was wrong?
Yeah.
Why?
You could argue it was self-defense trying to protect his buddy from being drowned, but you could also argue that Bob had his back turned, so there's no reason to stab him. He could have done, put him in a headlock or something, or shanked his back leg. You could have done a bunch of other things. But then you could also argue that he was scared and had adrenaline running, so he couldn't think rationally. Kind of went back and forth based on your opinion.
Okay? Yes.
Either way, at the end of this, it's allowed to be Pony Boy or with the social that died. It just happened to be a social.
Okay. So, yeah, so more than likely someone was going to die.
You could just shank them all in the back of the leg, like him just running around with like a knife, just shanking
You
them
shank
in the
somebody
leg.
in the back of the leg.
Yes, you
Back
can.
to what I was saying,
Because
it's
see,
just
there's
Let me
why
see that.
they
Because
could
there
put
are
someone's eye out, but no
there is
one
a
was
tendon in the back of the leg that makes you drop.
Okay, so who do they go to for help then? Who do Johnny and Pony Boy? No. So for those of you who haven't read, Johnny kills a Soch in defense of Pony Boy because this Soch, Bob, is they're drowning Pony Boy. Okay, so Johnny kills him, and when they come to, Johnny can't believe he's killed somebody because it's not like him, to have done something like that. There's some irony in that. But who do they go to for advice then? Who is the one person they think can help them?
Now,
Yes, why then? Why would Tally be the one that they were thinking, okay, that's where we need to go? Why do you think Dally?
you're a New Yorker.
Yes, and what else then? It's not all New Yorkers or, have been incarcerated. What is it about Dally that would be the thing that would make them want to go to him? Even because he's the cold one. He doesn't care about anybody. Why him?
Because he's not a snitch.
Because he's killed someone before.
He's not a snitch.
He would understand them, and he would know how to help them to get away.
Yes, he's been in so much trouble even since age 10 that he would be the one with the resources, the plan, the ideas to help them know what to do. Okay? Now, do you think, Sophie, do you think what Dally, the advice he gives them, do you think that was the best advice he could give them?
It was best if he could give them. Maybe somebody else could have given them something better, but that's what he.
For Dally, yeah. And I think he was, like you kind of see him have a little bit of concern for them. You kind of see a different side of him. If you look on page 59, kind of smack dab in the middle. They went to this guy Buck's house when he was having a party. They knew that's where Dally was. And he comes to the door, and they finally get Dally to come to see him, and he says, okay, kids, what do you need from me? As Johnny told him the story, I studied Dally, trying to figure out what there was about this tough-looking hood. Remember, hood is short for hoodlum. That a girl like Cherry Valance could love. Tow-headed and shifty-eyed, Dally was anything but handsome, yet in his hard face there was character, pride, and a savage defiance of the world. He could never love Cherry Valance back. It would be a miracle if Dally loved anything. The fight for self-preservation had hardened him beyond caring. I was reading yesterday, and this kind of stood out to me because I feel like you could plug any of those sentences pretty much into some aspect or another of your textual evidence chart. But the one I wanted to focus on is that last sentence. The fight for self-preservation had hardened him beyond caring. What is a fight for self-preservation? What does that mean?
So, maybe trying to make yourself stop getting hurt and trying to protect yourself from anything else. Because
Yes.
that's happened, and I've seen it and I've done it. Like, everything's hurting you, so you just cut yourself off.
Okay.
Or you just attack everything around you to keep yourself okay.
Yes.
And then in the end, you're not okay, because Dallas is not okay, as you read in the book.
Right.
Even in the end, you're still not okay. But you think no one else can hurt me. I'm just hurting myself, so I guess that's better than anything else.
And yes, if you're preserving yourself, you can be preserving yourself, like Trinity's saying, like protecting your inner emotions so that you're not hurt like you have been before. You're also surviving the world, trying to, live, just physically live. So he's having to do both, yes. Okay? So self-preservation self-preservation has hardened him. Like, just trying to survive and make it in this world and not get hurt over and over, yes, it's made him hard. So he won't let himself really care. Now, we do know he cares about Johnny, but even that is risky for Dally because, you know, he could still be hurt in some way by losing, you know, what he considers family members if he gets too close to these greasers. Okay? And it says he didn't bat an eye when Johnny told him what had happened. He grinned and said, "Good for you." So when Johnny says, "Hey, I killed Bob," Dally's like, "Good job." You know, he hates those socials so much that he thinks Johnny has accomplished something. Plus, those socials he feels like deserve it because of what they had done to Johnny before. Okay? Let's see. What is the request that Ponyboy makes of Dally? What does he say to Dally? He says, "Please don't do something." What does he not want her to do? After they've told him all this.
Don't tell Gary until they are something.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't want them to, well, not just where they are, but the fact of what they did. And which eventually it's all going to be in newspapers and everything, but he's like, "I need you not to tell them." Do you think Dally would snitch?
No.
Even to Ponyboy's brothers? Probably not. Even though they're his friends, and he doesn't really owe Ponyboy anything, because of Dally is who he is, he's not gonna, I wouldn't think, snitch. So, where does Dally tell him to go? Alexander, do you know? Yes, it's a church kind of, do y'all remember the name of the place where the church is?
J Mountain. They're getting off of it.
Yes, J Mountain, yes. And how do they get there?
Hop a train.
Hop a train, yes, not with a ticket. They wait for it to stop, they get on one of the cars and they hide so they can get there, okay? And when they're on that train, they try to sleep, and on page 62, about 3/4 of the way down, Ponyboy kind of makes a realization. He says, for the first time, really, I realized that what we were in for. Johnny had killed someone. Quiet, soft-spoken little Johnny, who wouldn't hurt a living thing on purpose, had taken a human life. We were really running away with the police after us for murder and a loaded gun by our side. I wish we'd asked Dally for a pack of cigarettes. I stretched out and used Johnny's legs for a pillow. Curling up, I was thankful for Dally's jacket. It was too big, but it was warm. Not even the rattling of the train could keep me awake, and I went to sleep in a hoodlum's jacket with a gun lying next to my hand. So, what is Ponyboy? Why does he kind of share that with us? Jamarcus, why would he maybe share that with us? Okay, Johnny's killed somebody. He's a quiet kid, doesn't hurt sleep, has killed somebody. Here I am, lying next to a gun with a hood's jacket on. Why would he share those thoughts, do you think? What? He's scared. What else? What else is he maybe starting to what maybe starting to bother him? I mean,
He realized really what he did and what he could face for it.
okay,
How far he's fallen.
He feels like a greaser. He feels like white trash right now.
he's feeling definitely like a greaser, and probably thinking, I thought my life might be going a different direction, and at this point he's probably thinking to himself, I'm just going to end up like all the rest of them. It could be. That could be kind of what's going through his head. That's also, the reason I'm pointing that out, that's also something you could put in your chart about, like, you know, his identity and how they're definitely going to be limited now on their desires and their choices from all this that's going on. Okay? Okay. Tell me, Libby, what happens as far as Kirby Boy's appearance? What do they do? What does he do to disguise himself? And what else besides bleaching it? Yes. Why is that an issue for him? Never has cut his hair, and what is it about his hair?
And he has like the best looking hair as a greaser.
Yes.
It's just his identity.
It is part of his identity, and he talks about how tough TUFF looking his hair is. It's a lot like Soda's, and you know Soda's the handsome, good-looking brother. It is part of what he likes about himself. It's part of who he is. And here he is having to chop it off with a knife. Johnny cuts it with a knife, so it's got to be looking rough because it's going to be all. If you've ever cut something with a knife that shouldn't be cut with a knife, it looks terrible. And then they put peroxide in it. Okay? Why does Johnny not bleach his hair?
It's too dark.
He talks about how his skin is too dark. He has like olive colored skin, and he's like, I would stand out if it looked stupid for me to have bleached hair. Okay? And so, is it typical for him to be thinking about his looks? Here they are trying to make sure they don't get caught for murder, and he's worried about his looks. Do you think that is a real thing?
Yeah. He's not being shallow. It's like he loves his hair.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what
That's
it
a part
is.
of him. And he knows he'll get judged.
Okay. Are people in our world today sometimes obsessed with their looks or other people's looks and things like that? Is that not just sometimes typical, sometimes teenager, but not always teenager? Adults can be the same way. Is that just not a real thing that we could possibly kind of understand on his part? If someone came at you with a knife wanting to cut your hair, you probably would not be real excited about it. Or if somebody threw peroxide all over your hair, you probably wouldn't.
It would just slide
No,
right
I'd
off.
probably laugh. It'd probably be pretty funny. Except for my parents would kill me though.
Well,
It'd still be pretty funny.
When you think about Johnny, he is feeling very guilty for what he did. But Jody, it was really self-defense or defense of his friend. So why do you think he's feeling so guilty when in reality he was saving his friend's life? Okay.
He just killed him. Of course you don't feel bad.
And he dragged Pony Boy along with him. He's feeling like it's his fault for him.
Okay.
And I feel like also he didn't want to change his hair because Johnny kind of wanted to get caught anyway.
Okay.
Like he doesn't have a home to go to.
Right.
That's enjoyable. And he was like, well, what's the point? They're going to kill me anyway.
And he also doesn't want like ballet racers to race and
Okay.
I feel like he kind of realizes that the person that he killed had a life outside of just beating up greasers.
Right.
Like, he was maybe not a great person. He had friends and he had family.
Okay. And this was the guy that had beat Johnny up earlier. You know, because he had the rings. So you would think maybe he would feel like justified in it a little bit, but really he's carrying all this guilt. And I think that also is just part of his personality. You know, he is such a victim of so much violence. For him to have done something like this in such a violent way is not like him. So, yes, it's murder, and I would hope if we had done something like that, because it wasn't like it was premeditated and he was going to kill somebody, we would all have guilt. But especially for him, you know, that's so out of his character to even be violent in any way. What book is it that they read? What book do they read while they're at the church? Jose, do you remember what the book is that they read?
It's like
Austin.
Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind. Y'all ever heard of that book or that movie?
Isn't it about the Civil War?
It is about the Civil War.
Okay, good.
Very long, like very long.
Yeah.
But Johnny remembered that Pony Boy really likes that book, so he picked up a copy of it so they could read it, just kind of pass the time as they're just sitting at that church. And Johnny kind of starts to understand Gone with the Wind. Why is that kind of significant? He's able to analyze and think about it. Why would that be kind of significant for Johnny to start being able to analyze something like Gone with the Wind?
Hanging out with Pony Boy.
Huh?
It shows our first time being spent together.
Okay. What else?
He's bad at school.
Yes. Like Pony Boy tells us, he struggled in school. He didn't get things quickly. And here he is kind of learning from his friend. He's starting to understand. Plus, Gone with the Wind is about two different groups fighting, for, one side or the other. It kind of mirrors their fight that they have against the socialists. Johnny views Dally as gallant. And what was our definition of gallant? What did gallant mean, Luke? What? Heroic. Doing brave things. Do y'all think, or why would Johnny look at Dally and just think he's gallant? She basically says that. When y'all think of brave and courageous, do you think of a Dally who's been in jail and likes to jump kids and, things like that? Is that right? Why do you think Johnny looks at Dally and just thinks of him as this hero, almost?
He always looks out for him. He always has
Yes. What's that?
If he didn't have his parents never really looked out for him, so his dad looked out for him.
Okay.
Yeah. And he believes that everything Dally does is for a purpose.
Okay. Okay. It's on page 76. Johnny talks about at the top of the page. One night I saw Dally get picked up by the bus, and he kept cool and calm the whole time. They was getting him for breaking out the windows in the school building, and it was Two-Bit who did that. And Dally knew it, but he just took the sentence without batting an eye or even denying it. That's gallant. So in Johnny's eyes, the fact that Dally would go to jail for Two-Bit and not tell on him, and he's just calm as the police are arresting him, in Johnny's eyes, he looks at that as like loyalty and very heroic. And then Pony Boy says, Dally's the one I like the least out of all these people, and Johnny looks at him as a hero. Who decides she's going to be a spy for these people? Sherry. And why is this kind of ironic?
It's her boyfriend and I.
Yeah, Johnny killed her boyfriend. Yet she's going to spy because there's supposed to be a big old rumble between the socialists and the greasers over all of this. She's going to be the spy that kind of keeps them up to date. How did Johnny and Pony Boy find out about this? How do they find out she's going to be the spy?
Dally.
Yes, and when do they talk to Dally?
When he's driving up.
He comes and takes them where? Where does he take them?
Dairy Queen.
The Dairy Queen, and they are so hungry, they're sick of bologna sandwiches, and they just eat meat. And he kind of fills them in on some things. Dally says this whole situation is whose fault? You know, remember? He says it's Sherry's fault. She's the problem. She's the reason all this happened. He blames her. So, again, what does that show us about him? He doesn't care. He he doesn't think she should be a spy. He even thinks maybe, it wouldn't hurt to jump them. I mean, he mentioned something about the girls should be a part of all this because they're part of the problem because they shouldn't have been trying to talk to y'all the movie. So he sees her as part of the problem even though she's trying to help. So something really big happens in chapter 6. What is it? Who can tell me? Marcus, do you know the big thing that happens in chapter 6? There's one of these incidents that really...
The fire.
Huh? There's a fire. What happens in the fire?
Kids get trapped in it, and Johnny and Tony boys run in to save the kids.
And yes, they go in to save the kids. And Johnny's burned pretty severely. He didn't get burned alive. But he's been burned severely.
No, he did get burned alive. He just didn't die.
And for those of you who haven't read past, if you've read past chapter 6, please don't contribute. But why is this important? Like, why would Johnny run into a burning church to save children? Like,
They feel like it's his fault.
yeah, what else?
They feel like the fire's his fault. So
They think, yes. Why would they think it's their fault?
They were
Cigarettes.
in there.
Okay. And do
I
you...
think one of the little kids started trying to smoke one of the cigarettes and popped it.
But do you think that maybe too, in Johnny's mind, he's like, okay, I've already killed one person. I'm not going to let anybody else die. Okay? He's not trying to be brave. He's just thinking, oh my gosh, we can't let somebody else die.
And then Valley didn't want Johnny to die, so he told him to get out the fire, and Johnny's not listening. He just keep passing down the sugar.
Yes.
And Johnny was like, pass me you, and then he's not coming out, and he got burned.
That's right. And he just stayed in there too long, and he is seriously injured at this point. Just making sure there wasn't something else. Okay. All right. So tomorrow, what we're going to do. I might point out a couple more things. Some of y'all need to read, even though you don't really have homework. I'd be reading to get caught up, so then you can finish the novel by Monday. And then the poem that's included in this chapter, Nothing Gold Can Stay. Tomorrow you're going to be working with a partner to kind of analyze that poem and talk about it and how we can connect it to the book. Okay? So we need to clean off desks.